What up, everybody? It's your boy, JayHemms. We're back again with another video. Today, I'll be reacting to NBA legends reveal their pick between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird are two of the greatest players in NBA history, and they have absolutely carried the NBA in the 80s. So let's go right into the video.
Is Mr. Magic Johnson your friend versus Mr. Larry Bird simply the best player rivalry of all time?
I think so. You take a look at both of these franchises. When Larry got obviously drafted by Boston, rejuvenized that Celtic-Laker rivalry because Magic's here, along with Cap. And those two guys were just totally different players from totally different spectrums of the world, basically, and they just had a different style, which I thought was the thing that was the most compelling, is that everybody wanted to see us play them because they were the hard-nosed, tough East Coast type team that used the pass to kind of run their fast break, and we were the Showtime, tuxedo wearing, just run up and down. It was just two different styles. So I thought it was interesting that you had Magic against Bird, because really they never really guarded each other, much, but just the fact that they were on the court was a rivalry because they wanted to beat each other so bad.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you
Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, that is definitely the greatest, individual rivalry between players in NBA history, for sure. Most definitely.
The fact that they were on the court was a rivalry because they wanted to beat each other so bad.
Okay, now I'm gonna give you a better one. Larry Bird, Magic Johnson.
Wow. Magic's got a post-up game. Larry had a good post-up game, too. But Larry was an outside step-back shooter. He had a great shot. I think I'd probably go with Larry. He's probably the better one.
Is that what you wanted to hear?
What did I say? I knew Larry.
For me, it's the fact of what you...
I have Magic Johnson 5th all time. I got Larry Bird 6th all time. Both of them great players. If you think Larry Bird better than Magic Johnson, I'm not mad at you. I understand. I understand Phil Jackson. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, both of them are all-around players. Both of them can score. Larry Bird most definitely is the better shooter, though. Both can rebound, and both can pass. Both of them had, the same playing style. Larry Bird was most definitely a better shooter. I think Larry Bird made the all-defensive team 3 times. I think he did. I don't think Magic Johnson made any. I don't think he did. But I understand, though. Of course, Magic Johnson, he got the more accolades. My thing with Magic, though, Larry Bird, it was required to him to bring up the ball up the court. Larry Bird still was a great passer. But Magic Johnson, though, a 6'9" point? Man, that's hard to come by. A 6'9" point with a crazy handle. That's hard to come by. And this guy could give you 20 points, 10 assists, and give you 10 rebounds, pretty much almost. That's hard to pass by that. Magic Johnson, man, it's hard to pass up a player like that. That's why I'm taking Magic. Both him and Larry Bird had the same playing style. But you can't pass up a 6'9" point, though. You can't pass that up. Both great, though. I understand, though. If you think Larry Bird better than Magic, I'm not mad at you. I completely understand. It makes total sense.
Is that what you wanted to hear?
What did I say? I knew Larry.
For me, it's the fact of what you guys just brought up. Who wants to play with other people on the team? And when I think of Magic Johnson, if I'm starting my team with the point guard that sat in the captain's chair and played center in every position in the game in the championship, there's no way I'm going against Magic. I have help defenders that can probably help. You look at all these guys are great, but you look at the first few years of all these guys, they all had great Hall of Famers, and maybe Mike didn't have that in the beginning, but to me, the one thing is Magic, being the leader that he is. One thing that is, maybe it is up for question, but Magic to me in the history of the game is one of the best leaders from what you've seen in his getting people energized, getting the crowd energized, the style of play. You ever notice when they scored how fast Magic Johnson got the ball up to half court? Those are Showtime things, but you're setting up the play with 20 seconds on the clock, and just him getting everybody involved, knowing what buttons to push. And I don't know if anybody had his intangibles.
Go back to the Dream Team, and it felt like there was tangible moments where Bird and Magic and everybody else realized that all of a sudden Mike was the new sheriff in town, and that there was almost this begrudging handoff of that guy's the best player in the world.
Well, they weren't at the same age. Jordan was more in his prime, although he's always in his prime. And I shouldn't even said that. He was Jordan then, and where Larry really had a lot of back problems then, and Magic had been all out for a year. Not that they were at his level at that time. If they were in their prime, all 3 of them, I'd take those 3 guys to start any team.
If you could pick one of those 3, that one would go to Duke when you were there.
Yeah, I can't pick one. I can't pick one. I love all 3 of those guys.
I spent the last
Yeah, because 92, that's when, 92, because Jordan won championships 91, 92, and 93, 96, 97, 98. So, 92 Olympics. Yeah, MJ was just coming off another championship. He just won back-to-back. Yeah, it's totally different that time. You can't compare Magic and Larry to Michael during that time. Michael, like Coach K said, Michael Jordan was in his prime. Like, you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that. But all of them in their prime, I'm taking MJ. I'm taking MJ. But either way, if you starting a team and them 3 players was available, I'm taking MJ, but you're good either way. You're gonna just know with any player you choose out them 3, you're gonna win championships and you're gonna be in the finals a lot of times. Just know out of them 3 players, which one you pick, you're gonna get a lot of championships. Either pick is good. I'm taking MJ though. I'm taking MJ.
Yeah, I can't pick one. I love all 3 of those guys.
I spent the last couple of days with Magic Johnson shooting the Capital One commercials. And every time I see him, I tell him thank you, because Magic Johnson and Larry Bird are the 2 most important figures in NBA history.
I agree.
What people don't understand, to answer your question, people look at this thing now where guys are making $30, $40, $50 million. When I came in, David Stern's first year, the average salary was $200,000. Magic and Bird, those guys changed the entire trajectory of the NBA and made it what it is today. Because Magic, and I told him this story, I said, and I'm playing with Dr. J. and Moses. I remember the first time Magic, when he made $1 million, we were going around high-fiving each other.
For me, it would have to be Magic Johnson, because if you look at the traditional point guard, they've always been not small, but smaller. You know, Magic was the first oversized guy that excelled at being a point guard. You know, he actually gave Chris and myself the confidence to be able to get the ball, take it off the glass, and go all the way. You know, Mike, best player on the planet, never really had a chance to play against Larry Bird, but I actually used to hate Larry Bird. Hated him.
Well, why?
I mean, because, well, not hate him, I was sort of like, you know, jealous of him, because he was a regular guy that did everything. He shouted in your face, he had to fade away. One time, I was watching a game, they was playing somebody, and I was betting this guy, and he was falling out of bounds, and he shot that thing over the backboard and it went in. And I was like, you know, I thought most of what he did was luck, but as I, you know, got older and kept watching, I just knew that it was skill. And, you know, for him to even have his name mentioned in this category with Magic and Michael Jordan just shows how great of a player he was.
Just to talk about.
Going back to what Charles Barkley said, he said David Stern first year being over the NBA, the average salary was $200,000. That is crazy. But during that time in the 80s, though, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird really did bring the NBA back. And everybody did start making money. So I agree with Charles Barkley saying, like, they are, like, 2 of the most important players in NBA history for sure. Because they literally bought the game back. They really did. But that's crazy. Back then, the average salary is $200,000. I don't know the average today, but the superstars now making $50, $60 million. I think Shea just signed a contract. Just signed a $285 million deal over 4 years. That's $71 million a year. That is crazy. For hooping? Don't get me wrong, he deserved it. But that's just crazy how much, like, the salaries changed from back then to now. That is crazy. And Shaq, he funny. He just said he hated Larry Bird. He thought he was a regular dude, and all the stuff he was doing was luck. Then Shaq said the more he watched Larry Bird, he realized, no, he was a good player. No, Larry Bird a beast. Oh, Larry Bird jump shot, his jump shot was pure. Larry Bird jump shot was pure.
Just knew that it was skill. And, you know, for him to even have his name mentioned in this category with Magic and Michael Jordan just shows how great of a player he was.
Just to talk about Larry, for me to see the guy can shoot the basketball, but then also be able to change his game up, but to do whatever he had to do to win. You know, kind of like Magic, kind of like Michael, but, you know, I was impressed for a guy with his athletic ability, which was not a lot, to be able to rebound the basketball, to really take the fundamentals of the game and take it to another level. I mean, everything fundamentally, if you watch Larry Bird, he did at a top level. I mean, but if I had to pick, because I started my team always with a center and a point guard. So taking nothing away from Michael. We all know he's the greatest player, but if I'm gonna start my guy with a team with a point guard or a center, I have to go with Magic Johnson, because now I can plug any 2, 3, 4, 5 with a Magic Johnson and we'll have a chance to win.
And if I said you could buy stock in Magic or buy stock in Larry?
At the time, because I learned to shoot the jump shot, I would have said Larry.
Who had a better NBA career?
Man, that's neck and neck, man. Both of them, I think,
They both bowed out early.
They both bowed out early, injuries. I don't know the statistics and all that stuff. They were both, it's kind of a tie. They were both sick, but for me, in college, because the blonde hair and literally Larry got me from shooting here to here. Literally, seriously, when I saw him play, and this was at the time where you didn't watch, there was no replay. I was 9. So that game came on and it was etched in my memory. Those semifinal games in college came on, it was etched in my memory. That changed my life. But the minute Larry Bird, and I swear my father is not one of these crazy New Yorkers who bred me to hate the Celtics. We never discussed it. It was in my blood. When he put that green uniform on, it was like God spoke to me and said, that's not a good person anymore. I swear to God, it's not like I was bred you're a New Yorker, we hate to. It's like when I saw him in that uniform for the Celtics, there was no more. And I hated Larry Bird.
Plenty to discuss, and in fact,
Michael Rappaport funny. He hilarious. He's really funny. Now, better player, that's most definitely a debate. Better career? If we discussing accolades and achievements, that's kind of neck and neck too, though. But Magic got 5 championships and Larry Bird got 3? I would say Magic had the better career. But better player? That's for sure a debate. Wait, Larry Bird did win 3 straight MVPs, though. And he beat out Magic in Rookie of the Year. Well, I don't think Rookie of the Year really makes a big difference for real, but he beat out Magic. So I guess we could use that. That's tough. A better career, I'll give Magic the edge on that. That's tough, though. That is tough.
For the Celtics, there was no more. And I hated Larry Bird.
Plenty to discuss. And in fact, in their prime, Bird wins the argument. Over their careers, Magic probably edges them out. You talk about the scorer getting it over the assist guy. That's for the most part true, but Bird was also a guy who made the entire group function better. As I said, from 29 wins to 61 wins in one season. Bird was a brilliant passer. Bird was a great rebounder. Bird could put the ball in the bucket.
I'm gonna drop the mic,
by the way,
KP.
Bird was a better Bird was a better defender than Magic Johnson. People forget now because Magic outlasted him and won MVPs when Bird was slowing down. But at their best, Bird consistently was considered the better player.
Listen, check this out. We got Bird, nothing but love and respect. One of the great ones. But you know what? In the National Basketball Association, you had a lot of white dudes who came before Bird, who, by the way, were in Boston that achieved the Kuzis, the Havliceks of the world, and others. When Magic came on the scene, he was one of a kind. 6'9", point guard, the smile, literally ingratiating himself into every household in America.
Bird being white got to do with it. His game was unique.
Come on.
But
Bird's game?
Aside, his game, we're talking about his game. Yeah,
Bird's game was not unique.
Oh, Stephen A. tripping. Stephen A. is tripping. What? Stephen A. tripping on that. Max speaking facts, though. I just said it, though. Max think Bird was better than Magic in his prime. I'm not mad at that. But he said Magic probably had the better career because he got more accolades while Bird was slowing down. That's what I said. Magic probably had the better career, but individually, that's a debate. If you think Bird better, there's no problem. Max said it. Bird can do everything. Bird was definitely a better rebounder than Magic. He said Bird was a better shooter. Bird was a better defender. That's tough for real. I'm not gonna lie, that's tough. I'm not gonna lie. This is a good debate who's better between Magic and Bird. That's a good debate. But Stephen A. tripping though. Stephen A. tripping. But he bringing up Bob Cousy. Larry Bird is the best player that ever played in Boston Celtics history. Larry Bird was the best player who ever played for the Boston Celtics. We're going to establish that now. He talking about Larry Bird game was not unique. Do I even need to explain that? Come on. Stephen A. was tripping on that. Larry Bird is known as one of the greatest all-around players in NBA history. What Larry Bird couldn't do, if you just look at Larry Bird game, probably the worst part of his game was that yes, he made some all-defensive teams, but that probably was the worst part of Larry Bird game. That was probably the worst part of Larry Bird game. It was his defense. But he wasn't even that bad on defense for real. Another two, you probably could say, because Larry Bird really wasn't that athletic, but them two is probably the only criticisms you can say about Larry Bird for real, if we're being honest.
Every household in America.
Bird being white got to do with it. His game was unique.
Come on.
But
Bird's game?
Aside, his game, we're talking about his game. Yeah,
Bird's game was not unique. It was excellent, but it wasn't unique.
I remember the game he played against the Lakers the first year that the Celtics won the World Championship with him on the team. He was ridiculous. He came on here. I remember our sportscaster played the Superman theme when he was talking about him that night after the game. because he did everything,
Right.
points, rebounds, assists, just steals, you name it. Larry has such a great mind for the game and a great touch. I had a lot of respect for him as a competitor.
I think Bird and Magic saved the league, and I think the league took off when the Detroit Pistons showed up on the scene. I think Bird and Magic, you know, what the NBA was coming out of in the 70s and how the United States was. I mean, we have to talk about that now. How the United States was for black men in the 70s, and then Bird and Magic being on the stage in the early 80s, coming out of college and then, you know, playing that, you know, that game again. Magic coming to LA, Bird going to Boston. You know, they walked into culture. They walked into a foundation. They walked into a way of being. They walked into winning.
What were some similarities between those two guys just from playing with and playing against?
Well, I think the similarities were their leadership skills. They both made guys better. They both cared about nothing but winning. You know, they didn't care about individual stats and MVP trophies and none of that stuff. They cared about winning. They both had incredible basketball IQs. They both were unbelievable on the court as far as seeing the game and making passes that you just didn't see. You know, neither one could jump very high. You know, I mean, those are probably the similarities. I mean, they both were 6'9", but they were both the ultimate competitor. You know, Larry did a little bit more talking than Magic. Magic would talk only when you know, really got up into him and started messing with him. Then he would be like, oh, okay, you know, but Larry was talking from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. He didn't care. But I think those similarities are the reason why those two guys were so competitive.
Larry Bird versus Magic Johnson.
Isaiah Thomas and Byron Scott, they were speaking facts. It's crazy how similar Magic Johnson and Larry Bird games were. That is crazy. The only difference is Magic played point, Larry Bird was like a small forward, and what Byron Scott said, Larry Bird talked way more trash. Larry Bird really did. Larry Bird is one of the best trash talkers ever. Larry Bird really didn't care who he was talking to either. He was talking to everybody.
But I think those similarities are the reason why those two guys were so competitive.
Shout out to Pro Sport Basketball for this video. This was a great video. Yeah, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, that's a great debate. It's really just based off opinion. It's kind of weird because like usually when you debate players, like their games are usually different. But Larry Bird and Magic, their games are so similar. So it's like, it's kind of hard to analyze both of their games because it's so similar. So it's like, okay, how you determine which one is better for real? But it's just based off opinion for real. That's a good debate though. That's a good debate. Both of them great players. Both of them changed the NBA. But like Byron Scott was saying, both of them was great leaders, high IQ. Both of them was 6'9". Both of them did everything on the court. Both of them great players. Definitely changed the NBA. Shout out to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, two of the greatest players in NBA history. So comment down below your thoughts about this video. Your thoughts about Magic Johnson, your thoughts about Larry Bird, who you thought was better between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. What's your favorite moment from Magic and Larry? I'm just curious to see what everyone think. Furthermore, like and subscribe. Also hit that notification bell so you won't miss another video from me. And I hope everyone have a blessed day. I'm out.